Hey. Welcome to FTB Weekends. It is Saturday, the 7th of January, 2023. It's currently 12:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am, of course, your host, Jason C. McLean. And, okay, there. And welcome, as always, there we go. Welcome, as always, Dawn McSweeney.
Hi.
Dawn, hi, Dawn. I haven't seen you since last year.
That's pretty funny. I'll accept it.
Yeah. I was doing that on New Year's Eve. Someone goes to the bathroom and midnight hits. I come back like, I haven't seen you since last year.
Who spent the ball drop in the bathroom? That's terrible.
No one did, but they were just on the other side of the room or something like that. So I didn't.
I was just checking to try to confirm a fact. I think I've confirmed the previously addressed fact. Let's go. Let's get there.
All right. So yeah, let's okay. So I was gonna have this whole joke planned. By the way, I was gonna be like, Dawn, welcome Dawn McSweeney, who's currently on the ballot to be Speaker of the House of the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. But of course, you lost last night. Kevin McCarthy, on the 15th vote, was elected Speaker of the House.
I held him off for a while, though.
Yeah,
I held him off for a while.
This is like ridiculous. I mean, first of all, there hasn't been like gone beyond one ballot since 1921, or I think. And it hasn't been, I don't think it's ever gone to 15 ballots. Like, this is, usually it's known, and it's the Republicans. It's the Democrats every time voted for Hakeem Jeffries, their leader, 212 votes. All the Democrats voted for him. They didn't have a problem. It's the Republicans. It's people like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, who like just almost lost her election and does not come across as the sharpest tack in the drawer. Or neither does Matt Gaetz, but they were basically holding up the government. I don't know. I mean, I actually watched it happen last night. I watched there was a vote, and then McCarthy lost, like didn't have enough votes to win. So then they spent half an hour voting on whether to go home or not till Monday, and the votes kept changing, and then eventually they voted to stay, and then they voted, and McCarthy won.
It was super tacky. It was all super tacky.
But I mean, it's democracy in action, I guess. But like, how come they were able to change their votes on the other one?
Okay, at one point somebody voted for Trump. So a bunch of people were in this just to ruin it. You know what I mean? And it's just the genie was let out of the bottle. The chaos was let out. Trump thought he had it under control. Trump then tried to tweet on whatever his whatever his own platform. He's like, vote for McCarthy. And everybody was like, no. And then they kept voting against him for another 10 votes. So it's like, he can't control the Kraken he has unleashed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been evident for a long time, but no more so than it was here, where the factions and ridiculousness and all of the nonsense that's been allowed just finally came to a head and literally just turned into a pimple of democracy rather than a functioning one. And it was, did you see dude grab other dude by the face and pull him away? Like, the whole thing was so embarrassing. If that had happened in any other country, America would have been there the next day to take it over and steal their resources.
Yeah. Or even if it didn't happen, they would have faked it. But the thing is, like, what did people like Matt Gaetz and Boebert, what did they accomplish? McCarthy's still the speaker. He's still the third most powerful, the third in line for the presidency. Like, that still happened.
Hold on. Here's the funny thing, because even before the vote started, McCarthy had moved his stuff into the speaker's office. So if anything, this proved to him that he should take it down a notch. I'm sure it didn't. Like, I don't believe that leopard spots, blah, blah, blah. But at least it wasn't as easy as he thought it was going to be. And I think it gives a tip to what he's going to be trying to control over the next, how long do they have to do this?
2 years.
2 years?
But they're going to be spending half that time after the first few months campaigning for the next election. That's
plus McCarthy gave away everything. He's got something like one person could trigger a vote. One person could hold shit up. There's still a good chance that they're not going to even be able to agree on things like the debt ceiling and things like that. So this is actually just an indicator of what's to come, I believe.
Well, I think that's their goal. I think they want to shut down the government because they're anti-gun. Like, a lot of the hard right people are very and they think the government should basically just give tax cuts and use whatever tax money they get to spend for the military, and that's it. Like no social programs.
Once again, extremes come to a horseshoe of sorts. So it's funny because I remember when Republicans were really for the system, and that was the problem, is they were like, everything should be through this system, and now they're like, no system. And it's just the bipartisan system is stupid.
Yeah, I was wondering if some of the blue dog or some of the more centrist, quote unquote, Democrats were going to be like, look, we'll vote for McCarthy, like 20 of us, but he's got to give some concessions to us. Like, I think that McCarthy couldn't have been taking that deal. Yeah.
It didn't cross my mind even once. And that might have been a missed opportunity. They might have had they done that, they could have gotten the concessions that the extreme right side got. So that's interesting that you bring that up. Hadn't crossed my mind blown.
Yeah. Also, at the last minute, on the last vote, the appeal of the Democrat, the guy who nominated Jeffries, saying, "Hey, there's a way out of this quagmire. Just vote for Hakeem Jeffries, because theoretically, the 20 Republicans vote for him, he wins
100%.
And you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a Republican speaker if Republicans have control."
There were potentials to get out of it that I hadn't considered. That's very funny.
Yeah. Another big story this week. It's sad, but now it's kind of like looking a bit happy. Was the Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field, and he's still alive and he's awake and he's communicating with people right now. So that's
by
a good
collapsed
sign.
On the field, you mean died on the field? His heart stopped, and then the amazing first of all, I'm not a big sports fan. I believe that I only like the part of sports that's really sportsmanly. So I like it when they shake hands after. I like it when they hug each other after. And in this case, when both teams got together and made a prayer circle, touched my heart. That's what I want from my sports. And the thing that I hope really comes out through this is the fact that the NFL wanted to continue. They gave them a 5-minute warm-up or something, and we're like, we're just going to get it back on the field. Like, this didn't happen, and like grown men aren't crying, and like the stands aren't crying, and like the CPR guys are crying. A nurse friend of mine yesterday posted on Facebook that you don't forget the first time you're giving CPR and somebody's bones turn to mush under your hands and you realize you can't save them. So really, it's a traumatic event for everybody who was there. And everybody who loves him from a distance. And the fact that he's now got his breathing tube out and is able to communicate with his teammates is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Some hockey boys had a game the next day. I don't know if it was the juniors or what. It was probably the juniors. And they all came out wearing his number. And once again, that's what I believe sports should be.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally the game was canceled because of the Players Association.
That's what I got off track. But yeah, it was only because the players were like, are you kidding me? We're not playing anymore. And it's just, once again, proves that the NFL doesn't necessarily care about the people that it throws into the pile for money.
Yeah, well, hopefully all the best. Hopefully he gets better.
In fact, as a sidebar, before we get on to anything else, let me say I found out yesterday that the NFL with CTE claims, and you could look this up because it was still going on last year, with CTE claims has a standard IQ level that they're using for Black men is lower. So they're saying that they lost less cognitive functioning because they started with less cognitive functioning. And that was their policy. Up to last year, at least. I don't know if they're still doing it, but that's how they were figuring CTE claims. So, I mean...
someone's one organization that had problems with CTE, but has actually dealt with it by banning a specific act, but also has a bad track record of one time of somebody actually dying during a show and the show going on. It's not really a sports, but sports entertainment is the WWE. The infamous Owen Hart incident, but they're actually in the news again this week because Vince McMahon, he was undergoing some sort of sexual impropriety, charges of sexual assault. He retired, but he's now back, and he's able to get back, even though the board didn't want him back, because he basically threatened the board of directors. He basically told the board of directors, look, the only way you can have your TV rights renewed is through me, and I'm not going to do it unless I'm back as executive chairman. So basically, it's either like the company gets destroyed or I'm running it again.
Which is fascinating because I had to quickly read up on this because a mutual friend was also a little upset about this, and I saw some tweets about Vince McMahon. And so I looked into it, and he was in December of last year discussing settlement, millions and millions of dollars of settlements for rape accusations while new rape accusations were coming out, and still managed to get into this position.
Well, the thing is how it was set up as a publicly traded company, but they have Class A. I found this out. There's Class A shares, which are the ones that make a lot of money, but then there's Class B shares, which are the ones with the more voting power. And because of his ownership of Class B shares, Vince McMahon has like over 80% voting power. So
now,
there's
I
no
have
way
to say, art and artist separation here. It is fair to say, I saw it quoted somewhere, that the WWE is his life's work, and that's fair. He could be a terrible person, but all of these careers and people and technicians and fans, like all of that is dependent on the WWE. And if because he created it and because he managed to do the shares, this is how he gets back in, like at the same time, it's like, I read somewhere that this was to help facilitate the sale. I don't know if that's,
yeah. Well,
so
if that's what it is, and the thing is, the main thing is they kept emphasizing he's not going to start micromanaging the creative again, which is what a lot of fans are worried about. They're like, because he was, even though in the like the quote unquote attitude era, which was like 20 years ago, he was like had some brilliant ideas. His ideas have been kind of repetitive. He's been sort of like randomly changing scripts at the last minute, real bad work environment. And then since his son-in-law took over the creative, Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, whose real name is Paul Levesque, who's married to his daughter Stephanie, once he took over the creative, it's gotten a lot better. Like people, like the storylines have been a lot more consistent. He brought a lot of people back who were fired under the previous regime, and now all these people are worried they're going to get fired again. A lot of talent back, and it's gotten really good. So a lot of people were worried that him coming back was going to mean that he was going to start micromanaging the creative again, which he apparently has claimed he's not going to do.
Well, listen, I know some comedians I like who have been fully canceled for far less. So that's the other thing that makes this weird.
Yeah.
But also as long as he's not the face, and if it is to facilitate a sale, but I think that a lot of people will be very upset if he starts showing up in the middle of a ring with his microphone again.
Again, in character as Mr. McMahon, who was a bad guy. Admittedly, that was a character you were supposed to boo. But still, you're right. No, people
not because if you're booing him because he's genuinely a rapist, that's not fun anymore.
It's not a wrestling plot line. Like they made him look creepy on TV, but that was supposed to be a character. Like
yes, that's the difference. I like my bad guys to only play them on TV.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one thing, I am going to SmackDown though. It's coming to Montreal. It's coming in an elimination chamber. There's also a show the night before, which is it's at the Olympia. It's a spoken word show. It's the Undertaker One Dead Man show, because the Undertaker is retired, but he's going to come and talk about his career, stories from the road and stuff the night before all that at the Olympia. Anyways, and you apparently you were at the infamous Montreal screw job. Is that true?
I think it was the screw job. I have to tell you, I don't think I was paying enough attention to the plot line. But that was the fact I was looking into before, because I believe Tito Santana was doing commentary for that. If you could double check, because you're good with the facts.
Well, I think it was Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, if I remember correctly, but it was the main event was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
I couldn't find Tito Santana being here for a show in '98, so that's what I'm basing it on, because I was a big fan of Tito Santana when I was a kid. So when he came out, you know what? I was at the screw job because I saw Shawn Michaels. Because I saw people. Anyway, the long story short that you wanted me to tell is because I was pregnant at the time and had to double check with my doctor that I could go to a place that was going to have pyrotechnics in the building. So if you're wondering,
it's you're out. If you're pregnant, you could go to SmackDown or Elimination Chamber.
Well, I would say check with your doctor, because it depends on the stage of your pregnancy and a bunch of factors like that. But yeah, so my pregnant butt was up in there in those seats rooting, and then they brought out Tito Santana and they brought out Shawn Michaels, and I was like, and there were all these pyrotechnics. So I imagine that when you go to the show now,
although maybe you were kind of like in a little out of it, because I honestly think you're imagining that Tito Santana was there, but other than that.
He was there. I was so stoked. He was at the table. Maybe he was doing Spanish commentary.
That's it. They have Spanish Yes, he was probably doing Spanish commentary.
But I promise you, he was there. I was in the building with Tito.
Okay, and I promise you that you at home that you can follow Don on Twitter at McMoxie, on Instagram as well too. Me at Jason C. McLean, Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow Forget the Box, Twitter, Instagram at Forget the Box. You can also if you're watching this on Facebook, like, share, subscribe at Forget the Box. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button. Ring the bell for notifications. Get our Android app. And of course, for daily content, check out forgetthebox.net. We'll catch you next weekend for another FTB weekend.